The hallway lights buzzed like tired insects as Eli walked toward his shared apartment. The evening shift at the cargo docks had dragged on forever, and the smell of engine oil still clung to his jacket. All he wanted was a shower, a warm drink, and the silence of his small room. He rubbed his aching wrists while counting the steps to his door. It was late enough that the building felt empty. The other tenants were probably asleep or lost in their own digital worlds. A soft hum from the ventilation pipes echoed like a distant song. Eli's eyelids drooped with exhaustion as he reached the door. He noticed the first odd thing right away. The light strip above the lock glowed green instead of red. Green meant unlocked. That wasn't normal. He remembered clearly locking it that morning before leaving for work. His new roommate must have forgotten. Lyra. Even the name sounded like music. She had moved in only 2 weeks ago, a quiet exchange student from a distant colony, not just another world, another species. The interstellar program called her people Viseri, though Eli suspected that word came from old explorers who couldn't pronounce their real name. Eli hesitated with his hand on the door panel. Maybe she was awake. Maybe she just stepped out for a minute, but the hallway was empty, and a faint shimmer of light leaked through the thin seam of the door. He frowned. Leaving the door open in this neighborhood wasn't safe. He tapped the panel, and the door slid aside with a whisper. Warm air spilled out, carrying a scent like cool rain mixed with metal. Eli stepped in and stopped. The second odd thing was Lyra herself. She stood in the center of the small living space, framed by the gentle glow of the ceiling lamp. Silver blue skin caught the light like liquid moonlight. She wasn't wearing her usual layered travel suit. Instead, thin panels of a strange dark material hung loose around her, half attached, half removed. They clung to her shoulders like petals of a broken flower. Eli's heart kicked hard. He felt heat rush to his face. "Oh, sorry," he blurted, spinning half around toward the door. A soft gasp answered him, but not the angry shout he expected. "Wait." Her voice was calm, low, like a melody played on water. Eli froze, one hand gripping the doorframe. I didn't know you were, changing," he said, his voice stumbling over each word. "The door was unlocked." "I know," Lyra said quietly. "Please, don't leave yet." The word surprised him more than anything else tonight. He turned his head slowly. She stood tall but not threatening, her dark eyes wide and steady. A soft blue glow pulsed faintly beneath her skin, as if her heartbeat shone through. The loose panels around her waist shifted when she moved, whispering like silk. "I need assistance," she said. Eli blinked. "Assistance?" "The back of the shell is sealed. I cannot reach the final joints alone." She tilted her head slightly, an unfamiliar gesture that somehow looked shy. "It is not improper for my kind, but I understand if it feels so for you." The words hung in the air like a fragile thread. Eli's throat tightened. He wasn't sure what to say. Every lesson about respecting boundaries, every awkward story of college roommates, every half-formed thought of alien customs flashed through his mind. You want me to help? With your suit?" he asked carefully. "Yes," she replied. "Only to unclip the back plates. Gravity here presses differently than at home. The plates have tightened beyond my reach." Eli swallowed hard. He could hear the soft hum of the ventilation and the distant whir of city traffic outside the window. His own heartbeat sounded louder than both. "If you're sure it's okay," he said finally. Her eyes softened, reflecting the warm light like deep water. "I am sure." Slowly, he stepped farther inside. The door slid shut behind him with a gentle click. Up close, the panels of her suit looked alive, a network of tiny lights running along their edges. Each piece overlapped the next like the scales of a quiet machine. He noticed small indentations where his fingers might fit, and faint symbols that glowed when he looked too long. "Show me where," he said, his voice steadier now. She turned, revealing a line of narrow plates along her back, each marked with the same glowing symbols. "Here," she murmured. "The lowest clasp is hidden under the second plate. Press and slide." Eli reached out, his hand trembling slightly. The material felt warm and smooth, almost like skin, but firmer. When he pressed the hidden notch, a soft click released into the air, followed by a gentle sigh as if the suit itself exhaled. "That's one," she said, a trace of relief in her voice. He worked carefully, moving upward. Each clasp released with a quiet hum. The sound reminded him of distant waves or the faint ring of a tuning fork. He wondered if the suit was truly mechanical or something alive. As he worked, she spoke softly. "This suit balances the pull of your world. Without adjustment, my muscles strain. I cannot rest." Her words carried a simple honesty that made his chest tighten. She wasn't a mysterious alien threat or a strange roommate who kept to herself. She was just someone trying to survive far from home. He wanted to say something comforting but found no words. Instead, he focused on each clasp, each tiny click, until the final plate came loose. For a moment, they both stood silent. Eli's hand hovered near her back, uncertain whether to move away. Then she turned her head slightly, her voice a whisper. "Thank you." The gratitude in her tone felt heavier than the simple task deserved. Eli lowered his hand and stepped back, heart still beating fast. "You're welcome," he said, barely louder than her. Lyra faced him again, a faint glow in her eyes. "You came when I called," she said. "That is rare where I come from." Eli wasn't sure what that meant, but the words warmed something deep inside him. The room felt different now, quiet but alive. The distance between their worlds suddenly smaller. Outside, the city kept humming. But for Eli, the night had already changed. The room was still and warm after the last clasp opened. Eli stood there for a moment, unsure if he should speak or quietly leave. The faint blue glow of Lyra's skin painted the walls in a soft light that felt almost like moonlight. He could hear his own breathing and the distant hum of city traffic far below the apartment. Lyra turned to face him fully. Now the dark plates of her suit hung loosely around her shoulders and waist, almost like pieces of broken armor. Her long silver hair, which usually stayed hidden under the travel hood, flowed over her back like a quiet river. She looked different without the suit, less like a visitor from the stars and more like someone carrying heavy weight she could no longer hide. "You were gentle," she said softly. "Many would pull too hard. You, listen to the suit." Eli gave an awkward half-smile. "I just followed your instructions." Her eyes, deep, dark, and endless, held his for a long moment. "That is rare," she said. The words made his stomach tighten. It wasn't just a compliment. It felt like something heavier, something with a story behind it. He rubbed the back of his neck, suddenly aware of how close they were standing. "So, is the suit okay now?" "It is free," she said, touching the open plates with delicate fingers. "But I must clean and reset it before I sleep. The city air carries dust that harms the inner layers." Eli nodded. He should have left. This was clearly her private time. Yet some part of him didn't move, drawn in by the soft steadiness of her voice. "Can I help more?" he asked before he could stop himself. Lyra tilted her head, a gesture that always looked curious, almost bird-like. "Perhaps," she said. "If you are willing." Her words sent a quick jolt through him. "Sure," he said, though his throat felt dry. She stepped closer and held out one of the loosened panels. "Hold this while I remove the inner lining. It must not touch the floor." The material was lighter than it looked, warm like a living thing. He balanced it carefully in both hands while she worked. Underneath, thin layers of soft cloth wrapped around her torso in careful spirals. The fabric shimmered faintly with each movement. Eli tried not to stare, but it was hard not to notice the graceful strength of her form. She moved with a calm that seemed almost inhuman, like water shaping itself to every motion. As she peeled away another layer, she spoke in a quiet voice. "On my world, we do not ask for assistance with our shells. It is a task of family or bonded companions. I have neither here." The statement struck him like a cold wind. "You don't have anyone else?" he asked gently. "No," she said. "I left my kin to study your skies and oceans. I wished to learn, but learning can be lonely." Eli felt a sharp ache in his chest. He thought about his own life, long nights in a strange city, family far away, friends too busy to call. Loneliness was a language he understood. "That sounds hard," he said quietly. "It is the path I chose," she replied, her voice soft but steady. "Still, some nights feel heavier than others. Tonight the suit would not open and I felt small." Her honesty carried a weight that made the room feel smaller, warmer. "You're not small," Eli said before he could think. "You crossed space to come here. That's bigger than anything I can imagine." A faint light flickered in her eyes like a distant star catching fire. "You see me," she said. He swallowed, unsure how to answer. The truth was simple. Yes, he did. For a while they worked in silence. Eli handed her the panels as she carefully folded each one. The soft glow from her skin painted his hands in blue light. He thought about how strange and ordinary the moment felt all at once. Here he was, helping an alien roommate clean a living suit as if it were just another chore. When the final layer was secure, Lyra placed the folded panels on the table. She straightened slowly, stretching her arms. The faint hum of her body seemed to fill the room, a sound just low enough to feel more than hear. "Thank you," she said again. "You already thanked me," he said with a small smile. "I must say it twice," she replied, a hint of amusement in her tone. "Once for the task, once for the care." Eli felt warmth creep into his chest. It wasn't just gratitude. There was trust in her voice, a fragile thing that she had chosen to give. He set the final piece beside the others. "Any time," he said, and he meant it. For a moment they simply stood together, the quiet of the room wrapping around them like a blanket. Outside, a hovercar buzzed past, its lights flashing through the window. Inside, the air smelled faintly of rain and something else, something bright and unfamiliar, like a memory of a place he had never been. Lyra finally spoke, her voice almost a whisper. "It is strange, isn't it? Two worlds meeting in a small room, sharing a single breath of night." Eli nodded. "Yeah," he said softly. "Strange, but good." She looked at him then, a long, searching look that made his heart beat faster.
"I am glad the door was unlocked," she said. He gave a small laugh. "Me too."
"I guess." They stayed like that for another heartbeat, caught between words and silence. For Eli, the night no longer felt ordinary. It felt like the start of something bigger, though he could not name it yet. When Lyra finally moved toward her side of the apartment, she paused and turned back. "Sleep well, Eli," she said. "You too," he answered. As he watched her disappear into the quiet of her room, Eli felt the weight of the evening settle inside him. What began as an accident, a door left unlocked, had become something he couldn't quite explain. He felt a strange mix of wonder and peace, as if the universe had briefly shown him a secret. Outside, the city continued its endless rhythm, but inside their small apartment, the night felt different. It felt alive. The next morning, a pale glow from the city's twin suns slipped through the thin curtains. Eli woke to the soft hum of the ventilation system and the faint scent of something sweet and metallic in the air. For a moment he thought last night had been a dream, an image of silver blue light and quiet words. But when he turned, he saw the folded panels of Lyra's suit stacked neatly on the side table. It was real. He stretched and rubbed his eyes. The memory of helping her still lingered in his chest like a warm ember. There had been no awkward goodbye, no sudden tension, only quiet understanding. Still, he wondered if she regretted asking for help. The kitchen area was small, barely a corner of the apartment. He poured water into the kettle and watched it steam. The smell of instant coffee filled the air. He liked the comfort of small routines. They grounded him when life felt too big. A soft sound made him turn. Lyra stood at the doorway, her silver hair falling loose over her shoulders. She wore a simple dark robe instead of her usual travel layers. Morning light made her skin glow faintly, as if she carried her own sunrise. "Good morning," she said, her voice gentle but clear. "Morning," Eli replied. "Coffee?" "I will try," she said with a small tilt of her head. "Your drink smells like the soil after rain." He smiled at the description. "That's one way to put it." He poured a second cup and handed it to her. She accepted it carefully, watching the steam rise. "It is warm," she said, almost surprised. "That's kind of the point." She took a cautious sip. Her eyes widened slightly, then softened. "It is bitter, but the warmth is—" Eli leaned against the counter. "So, how's the suit?" "It rests," she answered. "You freed the joints well? I will recalibrate it later." She looked at him for a long moment. "I am grateful, Eli." He felt heat touch his face. "It was nothing, really. It was trust," she said quietly. "And trust is never nothing." Her words settled in the room like a soft bell. He didn't know how to answer, so he poured more coffee. After a pause, she asked, "Will you walk with me today? I must visit the sky platform to send a message home." Eli hesitated only a second. "Sure," he said. "I'm off work until tonight." The city outside was alive with noise and color. Towering glass buildings reflected streaks of sunlight across the busy streets. Air trams hummed overhead, carrying people and goods between levels. Vendors shouted from floating kiosks, selling everything from glowing fruit to recycled tech parts. Lyra moved beside him with quiet grace, her hood drawn low but her silver hair still catching the light. People stared, some curious, some simply amazed. She didn't seem to notice. As they walked, Eli asked, "So what's the message about?" "I send a memory stream to my kin each cycle," she explained. "It is how we share our days. Words are too small for distance so wide. We send feelings and images, like a video call?" "Perhaps," she said, smiling faintly. "But it carries the scent of our oceans, the taste of our winds. They will know how the city feels through me." Eli tried to imagine sharing a smell or a feeling across the stars. "That sounds amazing." "It is our way of holding each other even when we are apart." Her voice softened. "I have not sent a stream since I arrived. The suit must be stable for the link to form. Last night I feared I might fail." Eli remembered the tension in her voice when she asked for help. "That's why you needed the suit fixed." "Yes," she said. "I wanted to tell them I am safe, that I met someone who listens." The words warmed him more than the morning sun. The sky platform was a high circular deck above the tallest towers. Wind rushed around them, carrying the scent of metal and clouds. From here, the city looked like a sea of lights and moving shapes, alive and endless. Lyra stepped to the center and closed her eyes. The blue glow beneath her skin brightened until it shimmered like starlight. Eli watched, breath caught. She lifted her hands and a faint ring of light formed in the air around her. He felt something then, a soft vibration in the air like distant music. It wasn't sound exactly. It was more like a memory of sound, touching the heart instead of the ears. Images flickered in his mind. Violet skies, a silver ocean singing with hidden voices, towers of glass taller than mountains. Eli blinked, amazed. "Are you sharing that with me?" Her eyes opened, the glow fading slowly. "A small piece escaped," she said, almost shy. "Did you feel it?" "Yeah," he said, his voice quiet. "It was beautiful." Lyra looked at the horizon. "This is how we tell our families we are alive. Not just breathing, but living." Eli stood beside her, watching the endless sky. "I wish humans had something like that," he said. "We just send texts and hope someone answers." She turned to him, eyes thoughtful. "But you came when I called," she said again. "That is a message stronger than light." He met her gaze, and for a moment the noise of the city disappeared. On the walk back, the streets were busier. Children chased tiny floating drones while vendors called out the day's last deals. Lyra stopped at a small stand where a woman sold warm bread wrapped in paper. The smell of fresh spice drifted through the air. "What is this?" Lyra asked. "Street bread," Eli said. "Want to try?" She nodded and he bought two. Lyra took a careful bite. Her eyes widened at the mix of heat and sweetness. "It tastes like sunlight," she said, smiling for the first time that day. Eli laughed. "That's a good review." They walked slowly, eating bread and watching the crowded market. For Eli, the world felt sharper and kinder. He noticed how the late light hit the glass towers, how the wind carried a melody through the alleyways. When they reached their building, Lyra paused at the door. "Today was bright," she said softly. "Thank you for walking with me," Eli smiled. "Any time." She looked at him, her eyes glowing faintly in the dusk. "Eli, you remind me of home. Not because you are like my kin, but because you listen. That is a rare gift." He felt a warmth that words could not hold. "I'm glad," he said simply. As they stepped inside, the door slid shut behind them with a quiet click. The city noise faded, leaving only the gentle hum of the apartment. Eli realized then that the distance between their worlds had shrunk a little more. And for the first time in months, he didn't feel alone. Evening settled like soft ink across the city. From the apartment window, neon lights stretched into the distance like glowing rivers. Eli sat on the narrow couch, half lost in the view, when the quiet sound of a door opening pulled his eyes toward the hallway. Lyra stepped out. Tonight she wore the travel suit again, fully reassembled and shimmering with faint silver light. The panels hugged her form like pieces of a living star. "You fixed it," Eli said, standing. "Yes," she replied, brushing a hand across the chest plate. "Your help made the realignment easy. But one section still resists." She lifted a small tool, something like a slender wrench of glass, and tilted her head. "I was about to adjust the lower seals. May I ask another favor?" Eli smiled faintly. "Of course." The maintenance space was small, just a corner beside the window. Lyra moved with graceful precision, her silver hair catching the neon glow. She knelt on a floor mat and began unlocking a panel at her side. Eli knelt across from her, watching the tiny sparks of light that followed each careful movement. The suit looked both delicate and strong, like a puzzle of steel and moonlight. "Hold this," she said, passing him a narrow strip of glowing material. It pulsed gently in his hand, warm and alive. He swallowed, focusing on the task. But every small sound, her quiet breaths, the faint hum of the city, felt louder tonight. "This plate has tightened," she said softly. "The gravity here presses more when the air is wet." The seal sticks Eli bent closer to see. "I can pull while you release the lock," he offered. She nodded. "Careful pressure. We must move together." Their hands worked side by side, fingers brushing as they tugged on the stubborn panel. The contact sent a quick spark through Eli, unexpected and warm. The panel shifted with a sudden click. Lyra adjusted her grip, but the movement made her lose balance. She slipped forward. Before Eli could react, her weight pressed lightly against him. Her forehead touched his shoulder. A faint blue glow brightened under her skin where they met. For a heartbeat, the room went still. The city noise outside blurred into a distant hum. Eli froze, unsure whether to move or speak. Her scent, something like rain on metal, surrounded him. I'm sorry," Lyra whispered, her voice a soft tremor. "It's okay," he said, though his own voice shook. She remained there a moment longer, steadying herself. Her breath was warm against his neck. Slowly she straightened, silver hair falling forward like a curtain of light. "I lost my center," she said quietly. "It is rare for me." Eli searched her face. "Are you hurt?" "No, only surprised," she admitted. They worked the rest of the evening in careful silence. Every movement felt charged, as if the room itself held its breath. Eli handed her tools, adjusted small latches, and tried not to think about how close they had been. When the final seal clicked into place, Lyra exhaled softly. "It is complete." Eli sat back, a strange mix of relief and something deeper warming his chest. "Thanks for trusting me again," he said. She looked at him, her dark eyes glowing faintly. "Trust grows when shared," she replied. "You hold it gently." "That is rare." Her words carried a weight he couldn't name. Later they moved to the couch, the city lights flickering through the window like distant stars. Lyra rested her hands in her lap, silent for a long time. "In my culture," she said finally, "touch is a language. When I fell against you, it spoke of need. I hope it did not frighten you." "It didn't," Eli said. "It surprised me, that's all." She tilted her head, studying him. "What did it say to you?" Eli thought about it. "That you trust me," he said. "And that maybe you feel the same kind of connection I do." Her eyes softened. "Connection," she repeated quietly, as if tasting the word. "Yes, that is close to our word for it." The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was warm, like the pause between notes of a gentle song. Outside, the wind shifted, carrying the scent of distant rain. Inside, time seemed to slow. Lyra finally spoke again. "Among my people, when two share an accidental touch and neither pulls away, it means the universe approves their path." Eli's chest tightened. "Do you think it approves?" She looked out the window at the endless city lights. "I think the universe brought me here," she said softly. "And I am grateful." Eli's heart beat faster. He wanted to say something big, something true, but words felt small. Instead, he simply said, "I'm glad you're here." Lyra turned back, her eyes reflecting the city's glow. "And I am glad the door was unlocked," she said, her voice barely more than a whisper. They stayed like that for a long while, two silhouettes against the neon night. The quiet between them felt alive, a space where two worlds touched without need for explanation. For Eli, the slip had been more than an accident. It was a moment of pure trust, a small shining proof that sometimes the universe nudged strangers together for a reason beyond understanding. And as the night deepened, he felt that reason beating softly in his chest. The rain started before dawn, a slow silver drizzle that softened the city's bright edges. Eli woke to the sound of it tapping the window like a gentle drum. For a long time he lay still, staring at the ceiling and replaying the night before, the quiet slip, the warmth of Lyra's forehead against his shoulder, the way she had said the universe might approve. He told himself it was just a small moment, yet his chest still held the memory like a hidden flame. When he finally stepped into the common room, Lyra was already awake. She stood by the window, silver hair loose, eyes following the streaks of rain. A soft glow pulsed under her skin, matching the rhythm of the falling water. "Good morning," Eli said. She turned slightly, offering a gentle smile. "Morning," she answered, her voice low and musical. He joined her at the window. For a while they simply watched the rain slide down the glass. Outside the city moved slowly, hovercars leaving long trails of light. "It sounds like home," Lyra said softly. "Our storms sing like this, though the sky is violet and the rain tastes of salt." Eli tried to imagine it, a violet sky echoing with music. "It must be beautiful." "It is," she said, her eyes distant. "But even beauty can be lonely." He glanced at her. "Do you miss it a lot?" "Every day," she admitted. "I chose this journey, but distance carries a weight that grows with time." The quiet between them deepened. Eli felt the truth of her words. He thought of his own family back on a small farm far from this shining city, of calls missed and messages unanswered. He knew the slow ache of distance. "You don't have to be lonely here," he said quietly. "Not while I'm around." Lyra turned to him, her dark eyes searching his face. "You speak with kindness," she said. Kindness is a rare light. Her words warmed him more than he expected. They spent the morning sharing simple routines. Eli brewed coffee while Lyra prepared a light meal of fruit and bread. She had learned to enjoy human food, even if she still tilted her head at the bitter taste of coffee. As they ate, Lyra began to talk about her world, small things she hadn't shared before. She described oceans that sang when the moons aligned, forests of crystal that whispered when touched by wind, children who learned to swim before they could walk. Her voice carried both pride and longing. Eli listened, caught by the pictures her words painted. "It sounds alive," he said. "It is," she replied. "Our planet sings in every breath. Here the air feels heavy, yet it holds its own music. I am learning to hear it," he smiled. "You're better at listening than I am." Lyra tilted her head, a soft light in her eyes. "You listen more than you know." By midday, the rain slowed to a mist. They decided to walk to a nearby garden dome, a place where both human and off-world plants grew in humid warmth. Inside, the air smelled of earth and distant stars. They wandered through paths lined with glowing flowers and tall green fronds. Drops of water clung to every surface like tiny worlds. "This reminds me of home," Lyra said, brushing a leaf that shone with its own light. "But your gardens sing differently. Softer, slower." Eli watched her fingers glide across the petals. "I'm glad you can find a piece of home here." She turned toward him. "You give me more than a piece of home, Eli." Her voice was quiet, almost hesitant. "You give me belonging." The word hung between them like a fragile note. Eli's breath caught. "I don't know what to say." "You do not have to say anything," she said gently. "Your presence says enough." Later, as dusk fell, they returned to the apartment. The city outside shimmered with fresh rain, lights reflecting off every surface. Eli made tea while Lyra settled on the couch. The soft glow from her skin lit the dim room. After a long silence, she said, "There is something I must tell you." He sat beside her, heart suddenly beating faster. "What is it?" "When I left my world," she began, "I promised myself I would remain only a learner. No bonds, no ties, only observation. I believed it was the only way to understand your kind without changing what I saw." She paused, her gaze steady but soft. "But I was wrong. To see truly, one must also be seen." Eli felt the weight of her words. "You mean us?" "Yes," she said simply. "You helped me when I was trapped in my own shell. You listened when I spoke of home. You walked with me, shared your food, your silence. These are not small things to my people. They are signs of trust. And trust becomes bond." Eli's throat tightened. "I didn't plan any of this," he said honestly. "Neither did I," Lyra replied. "But the universe does not ask for plans." For a moment they sat in quiet, the hum of the city outside like a distant heartbeat. "I feel the same," Eli admitted at last. "I don't know what it means, but I know I want you here." A gentle glow brightened under her skin. "That is enough," she whispered. She reached out then, laying her hand lightly on his. Her touch was warm, almost electric. "In my world," she said, "we touch hands to show a promise of friendship and care. It is not romance as you know it." It is deeper, a vow to hold each other's story. Eli turned his palm to meet hers, fingers brushing softly. I'd like that, he said. Their hands rested together, a quiet bridge between two worlds. Outside, the rain began again, a slow, steady rhythm against the glass. Inside, the small apartment glowed with a new kind of light, not from the lamps, but from something shared between them, something no distance could erase. For Eli, the moment felt like the start of something bigger than either of them. The room fell silent except for the hum of the ventilation. Eli thought of his own family, the distance between calls, the birthdays missed because of work or money. He knew the ache of loving people far away. You're not alone here, he said finally. I know it's not the same, but I'm here. She turned her dark eyes to him. You give comfort, Eli. It reaches farther than you know. But sometimes I fear I am unfair to you. Unfair? I cannot stay forever, she said, voice barely above a whisper. My study cycle ends when the next star season turns. I must return when the call arrives. And I do not know when that will be. It could be soon. The words landed heavy in the small room. Eli's heart tightened. He had known she wasn't permanent, of course he had, but hearing it aloud made the truth sharper. He looked at her glowing skin, at the quiet strength in her face. I don't want you to leave, he said honestly. Her gaze softened. I do not want to leave either. But the universe asks for movement. We cannot hold the stars still. The next day, the air outside was bright and cold. They decided to walk along the high canal that curved through the city's upper level. Water shimmered beneath glass walkways, reflecting the endless sky. As they walked, Lyra told him more about her home, about festivals of light that filled their oceans with song, about children who learned to glide through water before they could stand. Her words painted pictures of a world both strange and familiar. Eli listened, but every detail carried a quiet ache. Each story reminded him that her life stretched far beyond this city, beyond this planet. At the highest point of the canal, they stopped to watch the sunset. The twin suns dipped low, washing the sky in deep orange and violet. Lyra tilted her head, her silver hair catching the light. This view is a gift, she said. Your world burns with color. Eli took a breath. Do you ever wish you could stay? She was silent for a long moment. Part of me does, she admitted. Part of me wishes to learn every sound of your oceans, to taste every storm. But another part knows I belong to my people. They wait for my voice to return. He nodded slowly. I get it, I think. Do you? She asked softly. I know what it's like to feel pulled between places, he said. I left my hometown to find work here. Sometimes I dream of going back, but I also know I can't stay still. It hurts either way. She looked at him with quiet understanding. Yes, she said. It is the same for me. That night they sat on the apartment floor with a simple dinner spread between them. Warm bread, fruit, and tea. The lights were low and the window showed a sky full of distant stars. Lyra reached into a small pouch and drew out a crystal the size of a pebble. It glowed faintly like captured moonlight. This is a memory stone, she explained. It holds a fragment of thought, a single feeling. I use it to remember moments I do not wish to lose. She held it out to him. Will you share a memory with me? Something that lives in your heart? Eli took the crystal carefully. It felt warm, almost alive. He closed his eyes and thought of a quiet morning back home. His mother's laughter, the smell of bread in the oven, the sound of rain on a tin roof. The crystal pulsed once, a gentle thrum in his palm. Lyra smiled. It holds your memory now. I can keep it with mine, so a part of you will travel when I return to the stars. He felt a sudden rush of emotion. And you'll remember me? I will carry you in my sky, she said softly. Always. Later, as they cleaned the small table, Eli felt both comfort and sadness. He knew now that their time was measured, but he also knew the bond they shared would not vanish. Before they parted for the night, Lyra touched his hand. Light, deliberate. Among my people, she said, this touch is a promise of remembrance. No distance can break it. Eli squeezed her fingers gently. Then I promise too, he said. The blue glow beneath her skin brightened for a heartbeat, like a star answering a call. When Eli lay in bed, the city's hum fading into the dark, he stared at the ceiling and thought about the universe, vast, endless, full of movement. He thought about the crystal now glowing softly on Lyra's nightstand, carrying a piece of his heart across unimaginable miles. He felt the ache of coming loss. but also a strange peace. Some connections, he realized, didn't need forever to be real. They only needed truth. Outside, the stars burned silently, each one a reminder of distance. Inside, two lives rested under the same small roof, closer than the space between worlds. The morning began with a soft orange glow creeping across the city. Eli woke to the quiet sound of Lyra humming an unfamiliar melody in the kitchen. The tune was gentle, like starlight turned to music. When he walked in, she stood by the window holding a cup of tea. The blue light in her skin flickered faintly, like a candle about to dim. "You're up early," Eli said, rubbing his eyes. Lyra turned to him with a small smile. "I could not sleep. The sky called to me." Her words carried a strange weight. Eli felt it immediately, a shift in the air like the pause before a storm. "Is something wrong?" he asked. She set her cup down and stepped closer. "I received a message while you slept," she said quietly. "My people have sent the recall. The ship will arrive in 2 nights," Eli froze. He had known this moment would come, yet hearing it out loud cut deeper than he expected. 2 nights, he repeated. "Yes," she said. 2 nights, and I must return to the oceans of my world. My learning cycle is complete." The room seemed smaller, the air thicker. He tried to find the right words, but his throat tightened. "That's soon." Lyra reached out, her slender fingers brushing his hand. "I am sorry," she whispered. "I wish time could stretch for us." He gripped her hand gently. "Me too." They spent the day wandering the city as if seeing it for the first time. They rode the high trains through the glowing towers, walked the canal bridges, and tasted warm bread from a street vendor. Everywhere they went, Lyra's eyes shone with quiet wonder, drinking in every color and sound. Yet beneath her smiles, Eli saw the same shadow he felt in himself, a sadness that clung to every heartbeat. At sunset, they stood on the upper platform where the twin suns dipped behind a silver horizon. Lyra watched silently, her silver hair lit by fading light. "I will remember this sky," she said softly. "Its warmth will live inside me." Eli swallowed hard. Will I ever see you again?" Her dark eyes met his. "I do not know," she said honestly. "The universe is wide and paths rarely cross the same way twice. But memory can be stronger than distance." He wanted to argue, to ask her to stay, but the words wouldn't come. Some truths could not be changed. That evening, back in the apartment, they shared a quiet meal. Lyra prepared a dish from her home world using the few ingredients she had brought across the stars. The aroma filled the room with something both sweet and sharp, like ocean wind mixed with spice. They ate slowly, each bite a silent farewell. After dinner, Lyra pulled a small pouch from her pack and opened it. Inside lay several tiny crystals, each glowing faintly. "These are memory stones," she explained. "I will leave one for you." She chose a crystal that shimmered with soft blue light and placed it in his hand. "This carries a piece of me. When you hold it, you will feel the echo of my heart." Eli closed his fingers around it, feeling a gentle warmth. "Thank you," he said, his voice thick. "And the one you gave me," she said, touching the pouch, "will stay near me always." Night fell heavy and silent. They sat on the floor by the window, the city lights flickering below. Lyra rested her head against Eli's shoulder. "Among my people," she whispered, "the stars are not just fire. They are songs. When you look up, you hear those who care for you." Eli looked at the sky, trying to imagine the stars as voices. "Then I'll listen," he said. Every night, she closed her eyes. "And I will listen too across the dark." For a long time they stayed like that, the only sound the quiet hum of the city. The next day passed like a fading dream. They packed Lyra's few belongings, a silver cloak, her study notes, the glowing memory stones. Each item felt heavier than it looked. When night came, the sky turned deep indigo. The ship would arrive at dawn. Eli walked her to the launch site on the edge of the city. The field was empty except for a wide circle of landing lights. Above, the stars burned cold and endless. They stood together in the quiet. "I don't know what to say," Eli admitted. "You have already said enough," Lyra replied softly. "You gave me belonging, Eli. You gave me a story I will carry through every ocean of the sky." He felt a lump in his throat. "You changed me too. I'll never forget you." She reached up, touching his cheek with glowing fingers. "In my language," she said, "there is no word for goodbye. We say until the next song." "Until the next song," he echoed. The faint hum of the arriving ship filled the air. A light appeared in the sky, growing brighter. Lyra stepped back, her silver hair catching the starlight. "Listen for me," she said. "I will," he promised. She smiled, a soft, luminous smile that carried the warmth of 1,000 suns. "And I will listen for you." The ship descended in a silent blaze of blue light. A ramp unfolded, bathing the ground in soft glow. Lyra turned once more, eyes shining like distant galaxies. Eli wanted to hold her, to keep her there, but he only raised his hand. "Until the next song," he said again, his voice steady despite the ache inside. She touched her heart, then turned and walked up the ramp. The ship rose slowly, lifting into the vast night until it became a single star among many. Eli stood alone beneath the endless sky. He felt the small crystal warm in his pocket, pulsing like a heartbeat. Above the